Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Honeya. Today, we're going to be going over spending, specifically variable and fixed spending. So, we have a set of notes today. We're going to knock that out, and then you got a little assignment to do at the end. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, understanding spending. Why do we want to understand this? Overall, it helps with us managing our money, aka budgeting. So, aka budgeting is what it's going to do, and then basically allows for planning and it allows for saving, which we will talk about later on in the there are two types of spending. The first are your fixed expenses. So these are expenses that don't really change, and it's the same from time period to the next. And then oftentimes you have less control over these expenses because you cannot control whether they go up or down because they're always going to typically remain the same. So, what are some examples? Well, for some of you, this may be your Netflix account. This may be the insurance on your car. This could be your rent. This could be your housing mortgage. So it could be a lot of things. It's typically the spending amount that you pay each month is going to be the same and it's never really going to change. Now, the other side is variable expenses, which have the capacity to change, in some cases, a lot. In some cases, they can go up or down based on the various factors such as usage, time period, and that sort of stuff. So, for example, you have your light bill. Your light bill can go up and down based on how much you keep those lights turned on and you run the electricity. And the same thing with time period. So, for example, you may have a mortgage that requires PMI insurance, which we'll discuss that later when we go through housing. But you can have a mortgage that requires PMI insurance, and once you're finished with paying through and going through the PMI insurance, you no longer have to pay that anymore, so it drops down. This could also be a case where, for example, you could have a data plan that isn't unlimited. So when you go over your data usage, you have to tack on a little bit of extra on top of that. So that adds to your spending. So it's one of those things where you do have control over these types of expenses usually because you can control how much you use them. And I just listed um, some examples previously. So you have variable and fixed. So the big question is, can expenses be both variable and can they be fixed? Well, the answer to that, it depends. It all depends on your budget. And the big thing that comes around when it comes to budgeting is understanding what a budget is. What a budget does is it basically says what you are able to spend, followed by what you're willing to spend, which is then followed by making sure that what you are willing to spend and able to spend ensure that you can maintain a certain quality of life. And the biggest key to budget, and yes, I am saying this correctly, is to fix your variable expenses. In other words, that there's a double play on words here. One is to fix your variable expenses. So if you're spending and it's going out of whack and it's going up and down, up and down, up and down, you want to make sure that you can fix that and try to get it as low as possible. And the other thing is you also want to make sure that you, once again, fix your variable expenses. So, for example, if you have a certain amount of money that you spend on food every month, all right, you want to put aside a certain amount of money for food, depending on how hungry you get, depending on how many times you get asked to go out with your friends and get a bite to eat, depending on, the cost of certain foods and things of that nature, that is going to go up and down. But if you create a fixed amount of what you are willing to spend on eating out and groceries, then you automatically have fixed the amount that you're willing to spend for that variable expense. So it's important to, once again, fix those variable expenses.